Class 10 Biology, Chapter 2, Control and Coordination, Video number 5. The topics covered in this video are difference between nervous system and hormonal system, features and functions of hormones secreted by various endocrine glands, and the hormonal feedback mechanism. Students, in my previous videos, I have told you responses are shown in the form of movements, and movements can either be faster or slower movements. Now, the nervous system is quite important in case of faster movements because the nervous system controls activities through electrical impulses which are transmitted very quickly. But despite of this advantage that the nervous system has, there are certain limitations also. The first limitation is that the nervous system can control only those cells of the body which are directly connected through nerve fibers. And remember that not all cells of our body are connected through nerve fibers. Other disadvantage that the nervous system has is that the once this electric impulse has been generated and transmitted by the nerve fiber, then the nerve fiber has to reset its mechanism to generate and transmit another impulse. Right? That means that the transmission cannot be continuous. And so, because of these disadvantages or limitations that the nervous system has, our body also has got a need of hormonal system, which is a system of isolated endocrine glands that controls and coordinates various activities by secreting hormones that are released directly into the blood, and it is the blood which then transports these hormones to the target site. Right, and since the hormones are taken through via blood, the system is a bit slower system, right? But it has got advantages. First advantage is that once the cells of the endocrine glands are stimulated, they start releasing hormones, and they'll be continuously releasing the hormones. This in case of nervous system, just now I said you that the transmission cannot be continuous. The after one transmission, the entire mechanism has to be reset, but this is not required in case of hormonal system. The stimulated cells will continuously release hormones. The other advantage of the hormonal system is that the hormones are will diffuse to all the cells of the body, and the cells what does it mean is that like since the hormones they are secreted directly into the blood, and you know that the blood reaches each and every living cell of our body, right? This is not there in case of nervous system. In case of nervous system, what you find is that only those cells which are connected through nerve fibers, they'll be controlled by the nervous system. But this does not happen in case of hormonal system because the hormones will diffuse to all the cells of the body since they are being taken by blood, and those cells which have got receptors to detect the hormones, they will get the information, and then they act accordingly, right? Other advantage of this endocrine system or the hormonal system is that it has got very important role to play in growth and development of the body. Your growth and development is regulated by the hormones secreted by the hormonal system, whereas the nervous system has hardly got any role to play in this. So this is the reason why we have, in addition to the nervous system, we have a requirement of hormonal system. Now let us quickly have a look at the difference between the nervous system and the hormonal system, which is also called as the endocrine system. The first difference is that the passage of information in case of nervous system is through electric impulses, also called as the nerve impulses, whereas in case of hormonal system, this passage of information is through chemicals known as hormones. Then the nervous system consists of neurons, nervous organs, and the nerves. They contains the neurons, nerves, and nervous organs which have brain and spinal cord, whereas your endocrine system or the hormonal system is made up of endocrine glands and the secretion. Next, in case of nervous system, the message travels very fast in the form of nerve impulse, but the hormonal system is comparatively slower. Next difference is that the impulses reach only those cells that are connected by nervous tissue. But in case of hormonal system, the hormones diffuse to all the cells of the body. Okay, so each and every cell of the body will receive the hormones, and the cells that have receptors will detect the hormone, and that is to receive the information and transmit it if it is to be transmitted further. The other difference that you see in case of nervous system is that the response is quite quick and is limited to only those cells that are connected or innervated by nerve fibers. But in case of hormonal system, the response is slower and is produced by all the cells of the target tissue, because every cell will receive hormones through the blood, because it's the blood which carries the hormones. Then the nervous system has very little role to play in growth and development of the body, right? But this control system, the hormonal system, has a very important role to play in growth and development of the body. The nerve impulses cannot be passed continuously, because after sending one impulse, the entire mechanism has to be reset, and so there will be a small gap which is present between two impulses. But in case of hormonal system, the stimulated glandular glands will secrete hormones that will diffuse throughout the body, and thus the information can pass persistently. Okay, now the effect of the electric impulses is of shorter duration. Okay, but in case of hormonal system, the effect of hormones will be prolonged. The endocrine system or the hormonal system is a system of isolated endocrine glands that secretes hormones that are directly poured into the circulatory system or the blood for passage to different target tissues for controlling their activities. Now, as you can see here in this diagram, this is the diagram of human male and female, and the diagram shows different endocrine glands present in our body. When we say it as system of isolated endocrine glands, it means that these glands that you see, they are not connected to each other, right? Other thing is that the glands produce a secretion called as hormones. So there are different chemical messengers which are secreted by endocrine glands called as hormones, which are directly poured into the blood. Like in case of exocrine glands, which is also present in our body, like example of that is your salivary gland or the liver. Here in case of exocrine gland, the secretion is taken through a duct, like liver secretes bile, and this bile is taken by the bile duct to the duodenum part of the small intestine, or the saliva secreted by salivary glands will be carried by the salivary duct into your mouth. So they are ducted glands, but here the endocrine glands are ductless glands, and so the secretions of these glands are directly poured into blood or the circulatory system, and it is through the blood that the chemicals or the hormones are passed to different targets. The targets are the body parts where the hormones have to act. Okay, so they are taken by the circulatory system to different targets for controlling their activities, right? So we'll be discussing later in the later slides. I'll be telling you about the different endocrine glands that are present and what hormones they secrete and what is the function. Now hormones are the chemical messengers or information molecules that are secreted by endocrine glands and are poured directly into the blood so that they can be taken to different body parts called as targets for controlling their various activities, including growth and development of the body. So here this diagram, as I said, you shows the location of different endocrine glands present in our body. Hypothalamus, it is actually it is a connecting link. We can say it's a connecting link between the nervous system and the endocrine system. It is a part of the nervous system, but it has got neurosecretory cells that release certain releasing hormones, and the releasing hormones that are released by the hypothalamus, they regulate the secretion of pituitary gland. So at the base of the brain, somewhere over here at the base of the brain, you've got the pituitary gland which is present. Then over your throat there is thyroid gland present, and over the thyroid gland you've got the parathyroid gland present. Then above the kidneys you've got the adrenal gland. At the base of your at the lower side of the stomach you've got the pancreas. Remember, you've learned about the pancreas, that it is it secretes pancreatic juice, which has got a digestive role to play. But pancreas also is an endocrine gland which secretes a hormone called as insulin that regulates your blood sugar level. Then in the males you've got the testes, whereas females there is ovary present. These are the different endocrine glands that you have to study for class 10. So now let us study about the hormones, the features of hormones. Hormones, as I said you, that these are the chemical messengers secreted by endocrine glands that are passed directly into the blood and taken to the target sites for controlling and coordinating various activities, including growth and development. So the features of hormones are, the first feature is hormones are secreted by endocrine glands. They are poured directly into the blood for passage to different body parts. Third feature is that they act on the different tissues or organs called as target sites, and the target sites are generally away from the site of production of the hormones. That is, hormones are made at one place and they act on some other place. Then the hormones are effective and very low concentration, and they are highly specific in their action. And finally, one more importance of hormone is that both, or one more important feature is that both deficiency or oversecretion of hormone leads to disorder, about which you'll be learning in the later slides to come. Let us now study about the different endocrine glands and the hormones secreted by the endocrine glands. First, let us know about the hypothalamus. The diagram that you see here is that of human brain, showing the location of hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. The hypothalamus, it is a part of the nervous system. And this hypothalamus, in addition to the functions that you have already learned as a part of forebrain, the hypothalamus contains neurosecretory cells. It contains neurosecretory cells which release certain hormones that controls the secretion of pituitary gland. For example, the hypothalamus, it releases a hormone called as TSH releasing hormone, or and this TSH releasing hormone, when it is secreted by the hypothalamus, this hormone will move to pituitary gland via blood and stimulate the pituitary gland to release TSH, which stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. And this thyroid stimulating hormone will then be taken by blood to your thyroid gland to, and then there it stimulates the thyroid gland to release thyroxine. Similarly, if there is growth, there's another hormone secreted by pituitary gland which is called as the growth hormone. Okay, and this growth hormone, it controls the or regulates the growth and development of the body. So for releasing growth hormone, the hypothalamus will be releasing the growth hormone releasing factor. Okay, so when suppose the growth hormones level has reduced in the body, then growth hormone releasing factor will be released by the hypothalamus into blood. This factor will move to the pituitary gland and stimulate the pituitary gland to release growth hormone in the body, which later is taken to various targets, and there the growth hormone helps in regulating the growth and development of the body. So here you find that the hypothalamus, by releasing various types of releasing hormones, it stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete its own hormones. And that's why the hypothalamus is called as a connecting link between the nervous system and the endocrine system. Now coming to the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland here, as you can see, the pituitary gland is present at the base of the brain. And this pituitary gland, it secretes various hormones. Only one you have to study for class 10. So just have a look at what are the hormones secreted. First important thing about the pituitary gland is that pituitary gland, it releases various types of stimulating hormones. So it releases many stimulating hormones, like you've got TSH, which is a thyroid stimulating hormone, or FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. So these stimulating hormones' role is that when they are secreted by pituitary gland, they via blood will reach different endocrine glands and stimulate the endocrine glands to release their own hormones. So the first important function of pituitary gland is that it controls the secretion of other endocrine glands present in our body, and this is the reason why the pituitary gland is called as a master gland of the body. Other important thing that you have to learn from class 10 point of view is that the pituitary gland secretes the growth hormone. Okay, it secretes the growth hormone, and this hormone, it regulates the growth and development of the body, okay, by increasing metabolism. That is, like metabolism is of two types, the catabolic and the anabolic process. So the constructive processes, it causes the development, growth and development of the longer bones, the muscles, the internal organs, and thus it helps in growth and development of the body. Okay, now as already told to you that if hormones are secreted in lesser amount or if there is over secretion of hormone, then both causes disorder. So in case of growth hormone, if suppose there is a deficiency of growth hormone in childhood, then that leads to a disorder which is called as dwarfism. So here, so lesser secretion or deficiency of growth hormone causes dwarfism, whereas over secretion of growth hormone, it makes a longer bones to grow abnormally very long, and that results in a disorder which is called as gigantism. Okay, so this is a disorder which one suffers from if there is a deficiency, one suffers from dwarfism, and if there is over secretion, then that results in gigantism. Okay, so now that's about the pituitary gland. Now moving on to the next gland located on your throat is an endocrine gland called as the thyroid gland, and this thyroid gland releases a hormone called as thyroxine. Thyroxine is a iodine containing hormone, and so iodine is necessary. It's you have heard in televisions and read in many of the books that one should take iodized salt. Why? Because this iodine is required for secretion of thyroxine. And thyroxine, what it does, it regulates the carbohydrate, protein, and fat metabolism in the body, which is required for a balanced growth. Okay, so for growth, this metabolism should occur properly, and it is thyroxine which regulates the carbohydrate, protein, and fat metabolism in our body. If suppose a person's diet is not having sufficient iodine, then in that case the thyroid gland will not be able to make sufficient thyroxine. And if thyroxine is not made in sufficient quantity, the thyroid gland starts overworking, and because of that, it starts enlarging. And this can be seen as a bulge part in the neck, which is, and this condition where there is a swollen part in the neck, the swollen part is that of the thyroid gland. This condition or disorder is called as goiter. So deficiency of iodine in your diet makes the thyroid gland to enlarge, and the disorder is called as goiter. And this is the reason why people, especially those people who live in the plains, they are always advised to take iodized salt, because that provides iodine that is needed for the thyroxine to be made. Okay. The next gland is pancreas, and pancreas secretes a hormone called as insulin, right? Remember that pancreas has got two roles to play. It has a digestive role and it has got the endocrine role. It's actually called as a heterocrine gland because it's both exocrine. The pancreas is both exocrine in nature as well as endocrine. The term exocrine is not there for class 10, but exocrine glands are those glands which pour their secretion in ducts, and endocrine glands are those glands which pour their secretions directly into the blood. Okay, so pancreas is both exocrine and endocrine. The exocrine role of pancreas is in the process of digestion, where the pancreas, it makes a pancreatic juice which contains the hormone trypsin, about which you have already learned. And the endocrine role of pancreas is it secretes the hormone insulin, which regulates the blood sugar level. Okay, so soon after having your food, and after it is digested and absorbed into the blood sugar level will rise. It is the insulin which is secreted by pancreas then that the insulin will bring down the blood glucose level by causing excessive absorption of glucose in the liver and the muscles, and then causing its conversion to a stored form of carbohydrate called as glycogen. So this brings down the blood glucose level. Okay, so insulin, it regulates our blood glucose level by causing a reduction. But in certain cases, like there may be a disorder where insulin may not be secreted in sufficient amount. If suppose insulin is not made in sufficient amount, that is, if the person has got a deficiency of insulin, in that case the person suffers from a disease called as diabetes mellitus. Right here, the person's sugar level will be rising. Okay, there will be a persistent rise in the blood sugar level, and this is quite dangerous because if the blood sugar level is too high, it may affect the different body parts. In such cases, if person's blood sugar is too high, and the reason being that the insulin is not being made in sufficient amount, in such cases the doctors advise the patients to take injections of insulin so that the blood glucose level can be maintained to the required level. Next important gland that is present in our body is the adrenal gland. Okay, the adrenal glands, they are located just above the kidney over here as shown in the diagram. So the adrenal, there's a pair of adrenal gland, one located over each of the kidney, and this adrenal gland secretes a hormone which is called as adrenaline. This adrenaline is called as a 3F hormone. The 3F hormone because it's these 3F stands for fright, fight, and flight. So when one gets frightened, the hormone is released, and that will help the individual or the animal to either fight with the situation or to run away or flight. And that's why adrenaline is called as a 3F hormone, as it prepares the body for emergency situation. And how does it? Suppose you fall in a, if there is, like if you find a snake in front of you, or if you fall in a scary situation, in that case, how does adrenaline work is that when you fall in a scary situation or in an emergency, then the adrenal glands release adrenaline, which has got multiple target sites. The one of the target of adrenaline is the heart. So when adrenaline via blood reaches the heart, it makes the heart to beat faster, and this causes more and more oxygenated blood to be pumped to your muscles, because when you are in a emergency situation or scary situation, like if a dog is chasing you or you have seen a snake, you have to either fight or flight. So for that the muscles have to work, and for that they require sufficient amount of oxygen. And so when the heart beats faster, more and more oxygenated blood is taken to the muscles so that the muscles get sufficient oxygen to overwork. Other thing is that the blood supply to the digestive tract and the skin is reduced, and this happens because of the contraction of muscles around the small arteries that take blood to the digestive tract and the skin. And more blood will be directed towards your skeletal muscles because they have to work either for running away or for fighting. The muscles have to work, muscles of your limbs, that is the muscles of your legs and hands have to work, and so more and more blood is directed towards this. At the same time, the rate of breathing also increases because of the faster contraction of diaphragm and the rib muscles. Remember, you've learned the mechanism of breathing, and there you had learned that this inhalation or exhalation is because of the contractions and relaxation of the diaphragm and the muscles attached between the ribs. So here the target of adrenaline, another target of adrenaline is the diaphragm and ribs muscles, and so when they start contracting faster, you start breathing faster, so that more and more oxygen is taken into the blood. So all these things happen, and then there is more and more glucose also. The glycogen which is stored in the body will be converted to glucose, and that is also put into the blood, and that is then taken to the muscles. So because of all these things happening, because of these activities that occur due to adrenaline, your body gets enough energy to deal with the situation. So in this way, adrenaline prepares you to fight in emergency situation, of to fight or flight, whatever, it prepares you for emergency by providing you a huge amount of energy that is going to help you either to run away from the situation or fight with the situation. Next important gland, in fact they are the reproductive glands or organs, are the testes and the ovaries. The testes are present in males. Okay, in detail you'll be learning in the chapter reproduction. So the males, they have got a pair of testes located outside their abdominal cavity, and the testis, it has got two roles to play. One is its reproductive role where it prepares sperms, and other is the endocrine role where the testis produces a hormone called as testosterone. And this hormone, it has got two functions. One is to control the development of secondary sexual characters. So when the males and the females reach puberty, that is the age that marks the beginning of sexual maturity, lots of secondary sexual characters are produced which differentiates a male from a female. So the development of these secondary sexual characters in males is regulated by testes, and the other function of testes is to regulate the development of sperms. Similarly, in case of females, in the abdominal cavity, the females have got a pair of ovary, right? And the ovaries, they release the hormone estrogen, which controls the development of secondary sexual characters in females. There's one more hormone that is released by ovary called as progesterone. And this progesterone, it helps in maintaining pregnancy, right? So these are the different endocrine glands, and here is a table to show you the this shows what are the endocrine glands, what hormones they secrete and the functions. So just let us summarize that. Hypothalamus, as I said, you releases the releasing hormone, and that stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete its hormone. The pituitary gland releases growth hormone that regulates growth and development of the body, and over secretion of the growth hormone causes gigantism, whereas deficiency of it results in dwarfism. Similarly, the pituitary gland also, in addition to the growth hormone, it secretes the stimulating hormones which stimulates the other endocrine glands present in the body to release their hormones. Next is the thyroid gland, which is located in the neck region. It releases an iodine containing hormone called as thyroxine, and the thyroxine regulates carbohydrate, proteins and fat metabolism that is required for your balanced growth. The deficiency of iodine results in goiter. The pancreas, they are another endocrine glands which secrete insulin that controls the blood glucose level, and deficiency of this insulin causes diabetes. The adrenal glands release adrenaline, which is also called as the 3F hormone or the emergency hormone, which prepares the body for emergency. Your testis, which is present only in the males, releases the testosterone, and the testosterone, it controls the development of secondary sexual characters in males and regulates the development of sperms. Whereas in case of females, there is the ovary present which secretes the hormone estrogen, which is a female sex hormone, and this estrogen controls the development of secondary sexual characters in case of females. As already told to you that the hormonal level should be maintained, because over secretion or deficiency of hormone in the body both results in disorder. So there is a mechanism through which this level of hormone is maintained, and this mechanism is called as a feedback mechanism, which is a regulatory mechanism in which the presence of certain level of a substance promotes or inhibits the secretion of the hormone. For example, the example that is given in your NCERT book is shown over here. Like if suppose, like when you have your food, soon after having your food, as I said you, that once the food is digested and absorbed into the blood, the glucose level will increase. So this glucose level, when it increases, when the blood with a higher level of glucose passes through the pancreas, this is going to stimulate the pancreas to release insulin. As already told you, insulin is a hormone which reduces the blood glucose level. So when insulin is released, what happens is the insulin will bring down the glucose level by causing the conversion of glucose to glycogen in liver. So once the glucose level has reduced, so when glucose level reduces, then this is again going to be detected by the pancreatic cells. And once they detect that the glucose level has reduced, the insulin secretion is also reduced. Right? So in this way, through such kinds of feedback mechanism, the hormonal level is maintained in a body. Finally, after listening to the or seeing the video, you've got a small assignment that you have to do in your assignment copy. So the first question of this is, why do animals need a hormonal system? Second question is, both oversecretion and deficiency of hormone leads to disorder. Justify this statement. Justify the statement by giving suitable example. Third question is, how is the hormonal level maintained in the body? Explain with the help of an example. Why do some patients of diabetes take injections of insulin? Why are people advised to take iodized salt? And finally, write the digestive and endocrine role of pancreas.